And welcome to another edition of the GSMC Baseball Podcast brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. I'm your host, Kenneth Gruenfelder, and as always, it's great to have you guys today on this Tuesday morning. Got a lot to talk about on the show as we usually do. Another long night yesterday. And as a reminder, before we get into the rundown of today's show, to tip or to donate to the program and get your comments recognized, go to streamelements.com/gsmcsportsnetwork./tip. Really helps the show. And then also for bonus coverage materials that are not on the broadcast, go to patreon.com and search up GSMC Sports Network. So, got that out of the way. Now, let's get into what we're going to talk about on today's show. So, in the beginning, obviously, as you see on the bottom, we will get into the latest news and headlines around the league, as I've done for the past couple weeks since starting the show. Then in the second segment, we will talk about the Cy Young race in both the American League and the National League, and I'll give my thoughts on that, go through the statistics of the pitchers, and who right now is the front runner on both sides. It's definitely going to be a lot tougher to determine who it is on the National League side because it's very close. I mean, both sides are close, but the National League is where it's tougher to kind of determine who it is because it's kind of like the National League wild card race in general. To compare to that, it's always changing. So that'll be the second segment. Then in the third segment, we'll recap the games from last night, go over that, talk about what the standings are right now. And to conclude the show, we will go through the power rankings that were released this week, and I'll give my thoughts on that. And I saw there was a lot of complaints on social media about how it was set up, so we'll get into that, and that'll wrap up the show for today. And then, obviously, if you subscribe to the Patreon, go over to there, and I will have the video out for that around 12:30-ish. So, that's basically the rundown. 12:30 Eastern time. I got to remember to say what time zone I'm in because I just say the time and I don't specify because some of you could be watching this, in the Midwest, the West Coast, So, but yeah, 12:30 Eastern time. A little bit after that, it should hopefully be posted. So, that's basically, or that's at least when I'm finished recording with it. So, but yeah, that's basically the rundown for today's show. So let's get right into the first segment, which is talking about the latest headlines and news around the league. So, the big thing from last night, and I talked about that. I touched upon this last week when he got to 199. But Adam Wainwright got his 200th win last night. Pitched very well, and it was against the Brewers, a team that's going to the playoffs, and the Cardinals not really having a really bad season for the Cardinals standards. I mean, I don't. The Cardinals have had, mediocre seasons. I'd have to go back and look because I don't really remember. But the Cardinals are usually good, and this is the first time that in a while that they really just did not have a good year. But Adam Wainwright pitched very well. Cardinals won 1-0 last night, and he turned back the clock as the headline says on the MLB at Bat app. He went 7 innings, 4 hits, no runs, 2 walks and 3 strikeouts, and then the bullpen shut it down. And he picked up his 200th win. And I did mention this last week that because the Cardinals are having such a rough season, it would be nice if Adam Wainwright could give them something to be happy about, and he can go out on a good note and pick up a milestone 200th win. So at least there's a positive to take out of what's been a really bad season for the Cardinals. And he's another guy. Last year Yadier Molina and Pujols both retired, and I feel like obviously they were players past their prime, but I feel like without them this year, I feel like that had to factor. I mean, listen, I'm not a Cardinals fan, so I don't know. I would like to, Cardinals fans watching this, I would like to get your opinions on it. But I think losing that veteran leadership with those two guys, I think that also kind of played a role in why, the Cardinals haven't had as good of a season as they would have hoped for. Now, the pitching hasn't been that good. I mean, Wainwright's record, I mean, he improved it to, what was it? 5-11 with a 7.4 ERA. That's not Adam Wainwright numbers, but obviously he's a guy that's, he's older now, and I think he's 42. He's 42 now, I think the last time I checked, because I looked at his profile the other day, and yeah, he's 42. So yeah, 5-11, 7.4 ERA. But yeah, this, you go back to, the beginning, and he was great in his prime. You go back to 07, 14-12, 11-3 in 2008, 19-8 in 2009, 20-11 in 2010, missed 2011, 14-13, 2013, 2014 were great years for him. Sub 3 ERAs both years, 19-9, 2.94 ERA in 2013. 2014 was 20-9 with a 2.38. 2015 he got hurt. I think I don't remember, I don't remember if he was running the bases and he got hurt or something. But yeah, he had like a leg injury or something. I'd have to go back and look. But yeah, he got hurt in 2015. And then he had a couple of he had some rough years. 2016, 13-9, 4.62, 2017, 5.11, went 12-5, went 2-4 in 2018 with the 4+ ERA, 2019, 14-10. I mean, he still won some games, but his ERA, went up significantly. But then, then from 2020 to 2022, the ERA was below 4. It was, he was okay. I mean, 5-3. 3.15 in 10 games in 2020, 17-7 was in 2021, 3.05, 2022, 11-12, 3.71, which, I mean, it's not great, but it's not, it's not bad. But yeah, I mean, he's been one of the core pieces for the Cardinals, and this is a good way, to go out. It's not his last start, but definitely some Cardinal fans could be happy about and appreciate, like I said, especially with the year that they've been having. So, congrats to Adam Wainwright. And, yeah, so that's that headline. And, so the Rays, I went over this briefly, but so they announced a new deal for a new ballpark. So I think it's to build a new ballpark. It's $1.3 billion as part of the redevelopment of Tropicana Field's site. Okay, that's interesting. But yeah, so I mean the picture of the stadium looks. I mean that looks like a huge upgrade from what Tropicana Field has been. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I think that's not supposed to happen till 2028. So, but yeah, so that's another thing. Again, I touched upon that briefly yesterday. So the Braves, they clinch a first round bye. We know that. Still some injuries. We talked about Ohtani yesterday. Actually, they did. So Edwin Diaz is not going to pitch for this. For some reason they were saying he could possibly pitch this year, and it's like, why? Like, why even rush him back? But that was completely shut down. So yeah, there was an article that came out with that. But yeah, I don't understand why they would do that, But I mean, especially now you're out of the playoffs. I think if he was like, if the Mets were still in it, then you probably say maybe there's a chance you can come back. But yeah, I think they made just get healthy for next year, because the Mets are definitely going to need Diaz next year, considering some of the bullpen issues that they had to deal with this year. They didn't have the season that they wanted, and you're hoping Diaz comes back and he's effective. Because that kind of was the beginning of the end for the Mets this year, was when Diaz got hurt. And they definitely missed him. I mean, Robertson did a decent job, but he had some games where he blew it. And Robertson was supposed to be the setup guy. So he basically moved everybody up a spot. And, at times it hurt the Mets. Also, a big thing from last night. So the Orioles got a big win against the Astros, 8-7 in Houston. And they're at 94 wins right now. And, again, props to them, really. They and when I go over the power rankings, they definitely moved up in the power rankings. Going on the road, and this is the first game, obviously, but 8-7 against the defending champs. That's a big statement right there. And and now you hear my dog barking. That's a big win for the Orioles, and now she's really barking, which is great. And you see, I've been fortunate to avoid it on the live stream. It happened on the Patreon the other day. Yeah, we're just gonna push through it. It's eventually gonna stop. I don't know. She's probably barking at the mailman or something. I have no idea. But yeah, we've been fortunate to avoid it. In the Patreon, it happened, but the exclusive content, it happened. So if you want to go check that out, make sure to find us on Patreon, and you'll be able to watch that. But yeah, Orioles. But the Orioles are the underdog right now. To kind of, use my dog barking. Orioles are the underdog right now, and when it goes up against against like the Astros, they're the underdog, and they took the first game of the series, so that was big. 94 wins now. I mean, they get closer and closer to clinching the AL East. Right now, the magic number is at 10. Rays are 2.5 games back of them, but again, it's going to be a fight to the end, and we're just gonna have to wait and see. It's really going to come down to the wire. I mean, some of these division races are over, but this one, it's going to come down to the last couple series, and but 94 wins. I mean, this team could win 100 games. It's possible. Excuse me, it's possible. They're at 94-56. I mean, all they got to do is go 6-6, and that should be easy enough to get to 100. They don't have to. They could just play 500 the rest of. Well, you don't want to do that because the Rays are right there, but they could get to 100 wins, and no one saw that. Not a lot of people saw that coming. I don't know how many people saw that. Not very, very few people. They're a needle in a haystack. You really got to look for them. I certainly didn't. I mean, I think going into the year, the Orioles were going to be an improved team, and they could definitely be a wild card team, but I don't think people expected this. They are way ahead of schedule when it comes to, being a contender. Now, I think the one thing that is going to hurt them is the starting pitching, which I've mentioned several times. But the lineup is very good. The bullpen is good, and if they get their closer back, they could definitely do some damage in this postseason. But postseason is a different animal. So that's why, I lean towards the teams that have been there before. Like the Astros, I still think are the team to beat. And until they get knocked off, that's just how it's going to be. But right now, Orioles, big win. They take the first game 8-7. And, trying to clinch that AL East. But it's going to be tough. So, with that, we are going to take our first break of the show. And when we come back, we are going to talk about the Cy Young race. Who are the favorites as we get closer and closer to the end of the regular season. So, Stick around, and we will be right back here on the GSMC Baseball Podcast.